So I'm going to do something a little bit different to, it's sort of almost some combinations of some of the things you do with your rigid tape and whatnot. Now, we're not trying to lock up here, so this is for your lateral ligament complex. But if we can put a force that resists them coming into that damaging direction, then overall it means you need a higher force to create the same damage, right? But we're also going to come in and create some of that force closure and compression to increase those coefficients of friction at the articular surfaces and increase our stability that way. So we're going to bring them up into dorsiflexion eversion. And if you want to get your whole lateral ligament complex, you can start on here, start at the big toe and angle across towards just above your lateral malleolus. Remember, we've got to cross a joint to get a mechanical effect. So I'm going to go over the top of the talocrural joint to the top of the malleolus in dorsiflexion eversion. Okay, and I finish at the top of the malleolus. So this band here will now tighten up as we plantarflex invert, okay, to create a bit of resistance. If I want to get your posterior structures, so our calcaneofibula and our posterior talofibula, I can drop their foot down, if they're not a really acute one, into plantarflexion eversion. You can just wedge that there, and then I can actually bring this back down towards their calcaneum. So this band here will actually stretch in dorsiflexion inversion. So that's going to support my posterior talofibula and my calcaneofibular ligaments. Yep. Then we bring them back up and out again, and if you hold up there for me, and I can actually come across the heel to pull the heel out. Okay, and then I can come up. Now you could just come up and finish up here as a really light one, maybe with your wide one over the top. If you want some of that inferior tib fib compression for your syndesmosis type things, you can keep coming all the way around. We could just finish up there, and that's going to give us some compression. But if you wanted more force, you really wanted to reinforce it, there's no reason why you can't bring this around to get your compression and then come back down and do it all again. Okay, to really reinforce that. So it becomes a bit like a figure eight or something like that, okay? And then we could just come up and cut it off. You probably don't need to go around again and again, but you could just come up through there and snip that off. Okay. I generally put a wide one over the top because I'm working with the beach volleyball, a double edge like this, because this is a double layer because it's a ligament. Obviously that's easy to rip off. If I put the single layer on, which is what we do with our rugby and things like that, which I'll explain in a second as well. Let's see if that's enough to get me up through the foot. Okay, that'll get me part of the way around. Often we do with the rugby and things as well, on our shoulders or our legs, if they're getting tackled, it's easy to rip a double layer off, but if you put a single layer on of the wide one over the top, it attaches to the skin, and then you only have a single layer at the edge with the skin, so it's harder to rip it off. So you can do that with your contact sports. It also works very nicely with your barefoot sports, where, like in my case, the volleyball, they're on the sand. It just holds everything on, plus it gives you an extra layer of force. So it actually becomes really quite strong. Okay, so you can lightly spray the back of all that if you want to with the spray, just to improve your adhesion as well, but normally it stays pretty well, providing you hold it down. So there, same thing. We're going to come up, get our angle right, come to the top of your malleolus, then bring them down, come back to the bottom, up again, and then keep them up and out. Stay up there for me. And then bring this up, and this would be longer normally, and we'd wrap it around as well, but just to show you, and we'd finish that up on there. Okay. Now if they're acute and they're swollen, just take care going, I probably wouldn't do all those extra layers in the sense that if they're going to increase in swelling, if it's really early, because that's quite restrictive. And if you do that, you don't want to leave patches of skin where they can get pockets of swelling, so you'd probably come and do maybe just a stirrup or something too, because we've got a patch that's bare on the inside here as well, so we come around just to enclose the whole lot to really improve, get rid of that swelling and things like that. Okay, but you can stand up and feel you can probably feel it just like sitting there, but feel the force in that one. So okay, it's not going to lock them, but there's now quite a lot of resistance, and as I said, the The last in Denmark recently was classic. It just was day and night between where her talus was going and not. So our volleyballers, our dancers, our jumping sports, you know, gymnasts, anybody who needs to be able to get through range can't be locked up, and it affects their balance if they are locked up. This way, they can get really nice compression to stabilise, still get resistance into that damaging movement, which means we need a bigger force overall. We're seeing from some of those preliminary studies, that thesis out of Turkey, that it improves at least their balance excursion tests and things. And subjectively, they'll tell you it feels heaps more stable usually.